Hello all, welcome to the video. This video I'm going to show you how I analyze a game from Magnus Carlsen. I have published a video before about how I analyze my own games, but there are differences because when we are analyzing a different player, in this situation Magnus Carlsen, that I have selected for the 21-day chess challenge about calculation, uh, well, we don't know the moves, we don't understand what are the critical positions, so we need to go, and the first phase is to go along with the player, trying to guess the moves and understanding what's going on over the game. This is a fresh game, so always start with a raw game without understanding any comments, any analysis from the engines, and so on. I'm using Chessbase on this situation. Of course, Chessbase is the go-to professional tool for serious players, but you also have good alternatives. One of them that I am publishing over here on the channel is Anquasa. If you don't know it, go and check it because you are going to be very well surprised, I believe. You can also use other tools to analyze games, like, for example, also one that I usually refer, it's Lichess Studies, of course, everyone knows about them. But okay, let's go for the game. This is a raw game. This is a Duda against Carlsen blitz game. Although it's a blitz game at this level, all games are very, very good and very, very, well, how can I say, you can learn a lot from them. This is more or less a recent game. This is a 2025, end of 2025 game. Okay, so let's go with guess the move. This is the first path. Okay, I'm trying to follow Magnus Carlsen, so let's press here Control F to shift the board. Normally, I could do this also without the notation. If you don't want the notation, you go to the View tab. So you have Home normal, then you shift to View, and then you uncheck notation, so you get the game. So when you play the moves, you just see the moves. Don't worry about the notation. Of course, over here, it's a Sicilian. I am trying to follow Carlsen in more or less moves that I also play on my own repertoire. So I try to not only analyze it for the calculation purpose of the series, but also to understand better the openings that I want to play. So Duda goes with the normal Sicilian move. Carlsen normally plays e6. I have seen him play e6 to go for Taimanov, the go to Sicilian that he already played in World Championships, of course, and he had great results with it. Even to a situation that I have seen Super Coach saying that he just proved that this is a draw, a theoretical draw. Well, I don't know about much about it, so I need to just listen and try to understand. Okay, it goes, Duda goes for the open Sicilian, so we get the open Sicilian. Now I'm expecting something like knight c6 or knight f6, but okay, Carlsen went knight c6. Of course, now the normal move is to be playing knight c3, okay, and Duda starts by surprising, going with a3. So here I can write some comments, so Control A, okay, this I was not expecting. So this is just the first move that I am seeing that I don't remember, at least. So what are the ideas from Carlsen? Okay, it can go on with knight f6 probably. Uh, he loves to develop pieces very fluid, not complicating things on the opening. So I guess it goes with knight f6 probably. Okay, you went with queen c7, so this is more or less kind of a Taimanov position. Uh, interesting. So let's see what Duda does now. I don't know about the ideas over here, but maybe a Maroxy bind. I'm guessing. Okay, we get a Maroxy bind. Maroxy bind is when you get the 2 pawns to block the d5 opportunity for black, so making d5 a very difficult move for black. Okay, this is more or less the Moroxy bind. So we are going to play this maneuvering game, but I think this favors black for sure. Now I believe Magnus is going with a knight. Okay, knight f6. Uh, Over here, I say now bringing the light square bishop, maybe, or the dark square. I don't know. Maybe the light square. No, the knight. Okay, I am a bit distracted by recording at the same time. Of course, the knight also. It's a viable option. Now Magnus probably brings the bishop. Okay, this is different. So Magnus takes. The queen takes back. Okay, but I don't think this is good. How are we going now to expel the queen? Okay, this is a question. Is this a main move? I don't know about this one, but okay. We are still in the opening. Well, what would I play over here? And why has it take? Well, maybe I would go with bishop e7. Let me just add that this would be my move. Okay, so we are just trying to understand what's going on the game. Now it's Duda to play. Sorry, now it's we need to go back and play the moves from the game. Now it's okay. He has bishop c5 over here. Yes, bishop c5. So we found a way to develop. This is interesting. So you see, we can learn a bit about them. So in this situation, he exchanges pieces because also black benefits a bit by simplifying the game. If it at least wants to keep not going for a defeat. So now bishop c5, it's a very smart move. So he exchanges and now he wins a tempo on white. So now the king removes and now he castles for sure. No, okay, another move that I was not expecting. Here I was expecting castle. Let me also okay, I made a mistake. Okay, control A, and this would be my move. So over here, this would be my move. Castle. Okay, now it's we need to go back to the game, and he went knight g4. Okay, I was not understanding this one, but of course we are not following the game with too much concentration because, as you can see over here, now he's posing a threat. I also see this sometimes that he tries to go and create some problems immediately for the opponent, which is very interesting. He talked about in one session of Title Tuesday. He talked about weak players and very weak players. I even have a short over here on the channel about it, and he says that good players not only try to counter the opponent's plans, but also to create and go along with their own plans. And I see Magnus doing this a lot. So this is a very dynamic move, attacking a weak square. So let's see how white can defend this one. Well, either go f3, probably, but then the threat is to fork the rook and the queen. So I don't see much. How can Duda defend this one? And we are already starting. Well, what a nice move. Well, probably bishop e3 is forced over here. Well, what's going on? Well, let's find out. Let's see. Oh, man, take me over to another place. Okay, this is strange, but okay, this is a defense. I didn't saw that. Normally we don't see moves where the pieces go back, and this is the situation. This was a surprise for me. Was not seeing this one, which is not good for me. But okay, I'm glad that Duda shows us that there was a difference after all. So now it's Magnus to play. He castles, so he completes development. Now white maybe brings the bishop to e2, probably. Yes, no, logical. So attacking the knight. I wouldn't be surprised over here if Magnus take that pawn. No, that pawn it's too dangerous. I'm clueless, but maybe it can go 95, probably winning another tempo on the queen, and then probably placing the knight on g6, I would guess. 95, the queen moves. Okay, now there's a pin over here. Okay, this is harder when I am recording at the same time I am thinking, for sure. And so let's see what black does. Maybe bring in the bishop, probably. Or using the pawn d6, also an option. Yes, pawn d6. So now it's white to move again. I wonder if it wants to castle now. I don't see many threats, but there is bishop h6. This is a big threat. Bishop h6. Okay, it comes. So Magnus probably is aware of this thing. Maybe goes now with f5. f5, f6, I don't see many logic about it. So f5, yes. So again, it's Duda to play. So taking, okay, it's possible to take, of course. Take the pawn, we get the take back with another pawn. This creates a wall on d5. Or just castle, and no, okay, he needs to take the pawn. Yes, okay. So now how black is going to take back the pawn? Well, if it takes with the rook, it keeps the two central hanging pawns, which is good for black. If it takes with the pawn, it doesn't get much, although it's going to create. Okay, I think it's going to take with the rook, but it took with the pawn. So let's note it here that I want to see also. What about this one? Wasn't it better to take with the rook and get the semi-open file? Okay, question mark. Okay, now it's white to play. White to play, and we need to go with the pawn taking, of course. I would say that we need to bring out the knights over here, or just castle. Okay, we need to bring out the knight c3. The threat is to go to the hole that was created because Magnus has took with a pawn, so we have now a hole in our camp, in our black position. Of course, Magnus covers that one with a bishop, but it doesn't cover entirely, so the knight can go there. But then if we take, so if the knight comes, the bishop takes, then the pawn takes, and the pawn is going to become an isolated pawn, but of course black also has one. So Duda decides to castle. Now it's black to play again. I think the queen is going to have some problems over here. But of course, maybe king h8 is one option. I think king h8 is an interesting option. But what else? I can bring my a rook. Normally a thing that I would see from Carlsen, but to where? Maybe to c5? No. It just grabs the pawn, of course. Well, I'm sleeping over here. I didn't saw even that the pawn was just defended by one and attacked by two. Well, whatever. So it takes the pawn. So 1 pawn advantage. Of course, this is seen by Duda and it tries to counterattack. Now the bishop moves back, of course. So white to play, probably activating another rook, but before it goes with a knight. Okay, creating some pressure over the other pawn. So the queen needs to keep protecting it. So, okay, this was more or less expected, and counterattacks about it against the knight, so we have a very dynamical game over here. And white is a pawn down, so some compensation is needed. Okay, the attack on the pawn goes on, but now black can simply advance it to d5, which will block, of course, the light square bishop. So let's see if black wants to stay connected with the pawn or no. Okay, it sacrificed the other one, so bishop takes now. And now it's white to play. Well, this deserves more time to think, of course. It takes, and well, isn't the knight hanging? Yes, it's hanging. I don't understand this move, sorry. So, why doesn't defend the knight? What's going on over here? What happens if I go... Okay, so I can't take with the queen because I can take it directly, of course, because there is a checkmate threat on g7. But I don't think this is very hard to see. And if the king tries to keep the threat, like, for example, going to g5, this is just a big blunder. I can go, for example, with the rook, and then I get this fork. So this is a big blunder from Duda. Okay, so he lost the knight, and probably he won't recover from this one. Okay, so the idea here is to force the queen to come back. Then, sorry, oh, what is going on now? So the queen to come back, then it takes the knight, so the bishop goes there, and then grabs with the rook. But I don't see how can do the benefit from this anymore. Even worse, this is a more clever move, of course, proposing the exchange of the queens. So now it brings the bishop, but okay, we just take. Okay, Carlsen, instead of taking the bishop, which I think also would work, decides that's why it's better player than us. I think this is also working, so let me place it here and to see later. But of course, this one also activates the rook, and so I don't... okay, this is, and he activates the rook, and it's game over. Duda quits. So let's turn on the notation. So this was the first phase. As you see now, I have already some moments of the game to check. So let's go for the second moment of this one, where I go again to the positions that we saw, a3, and now I am going to turn on the online database. So I'm going to see what games are played over here. And as you can see over here, let me see if Carlsen has more games on this one. Let me order by Elo. No. But let's see what white players are playing this one. Lataza, Santos Lataza, Jaime Santos Lataza. Play this against Adrekin. Let me see the dates. Okay, as you can see, there is a recent game over here. So let's check that game. We just click the game and the game goes up, so we can check it. So it went knight f6, which was more or less the move that I was expecting. Knight c3, d6. So this is more a Schwenningen. Bishop e3. Yes, this went to a Schwenningen, so not interesting. So now I can restore game and go back to where I was. Again, I can see what black players are doing over here. And of course, there are more or less good games. So let me see, of course, over here. So we went queen c7. But let's see what it's saying over here. So knight c6, knight f6 is the main one. I was expecting knight f6. But as you can see over here, queen c7 is performing a bit better. There's also bishop c5. So bishop c5 looks interesting. What happens with bishop c5? Now knight b3. No. I am not liking this anymore. Okay, so this is one of the potential moves. but I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay. So this was also a move, a potential move, but okay. No, I don't like it a lot. After this one, well, you need to go to b6 or e7. So, I don't think it's good. So a3, I would go with knight f6, which looks interesting. Of course, now comes knight c3, but this is just transposing to another Sicilian. As we can see down here, Abtsarov against Erigazi, Firuja Sindarov, Duda Caruana. So this is interesting. This game is interesting, this one. Let me check this one between Duda and Caruana. So what was going on this game? Okay, they started with knights and then Duda went to a3. So probably Duda was just transposing to this one, and I don't know if Magnus was aware of it or not, but with queen c7 he avoids the transpositions, which is very smart. So after a3 the moves are knight f6, which normally transposes to another Sicilian variation, and queen c7. So at the moment, let's go with queen c7 to see what's going on from here. Now Duda played c4, but we also have knight c3. Knight c3 probably will transpose somewhere else. So as you can see over here, Duda has played against Grandelius and against Etienne Braco. Let me see the move orders. Okay, it started with knight c3 on this one, and it started with knight c3 on that one. So normally here we see that Duda plays a3. So probably Carlsen is aware of the lines that Duda is playing, and over here we just get this transposition from this game was after Carlsen's game. So also interesting to check. And Grandellos went with a6, so very interesting. Let's go to our game. And in our game, Carlsen went, Duda went to the Moroxy bind with c4. c4, and over here you can see, now let's order this by strong players. And as you can see over here, queen e5 is also an option. Queen e5 is a very strange move. Very strange move. And now it went bishop e3, no? Bishop e3. And now, interesting one. So another thing we can do on the analysis to click the game we are interested with the right mouse and then copy to notation, okay? And then we get the game in the notation. And what I do normally is I go through the moves until they are not interesting anymore. So this one, this move was queen e5 attacking the knight and the bishop and the pawn. Sorry, I don't like these colors. Let me change for red. Attacking these two pieces, and white only defends one, so sacrifice one pawn. Then knight c3 wins a tempo on the queen. The queen went to e5. Now bishop e2, and as you can see over here, this was a win from black, so must be interesting, although white is super developed at the moment. Knight f6, castle, bishop e7, okay, nice development over there. But look at our queen. Our queen is in the middle of the board. Of course, it can go back to c7, so queen d2. Knight takes now to exchange one piece, and queen goes to b8, kind of a can maneuver with idea later to bring the bishop probably to c7. So I have seen that before. So bishop e3, so attacking the long diagonal. So this one also very smart, because normally black would want to go with the bishop to fianchetto it on b7. So now castle. Okay, rook comes to e1. This is typical from the can maneuvers. but okay, black has a pawn up, so probably is going to suffer. Okay, before, and now I can develop light square bishop to d7 maybe. Yes, now queen b2, and okay, proposing the exchanging of the bishops, and now queen comes back to c7, and okay, from here I think we have seen, well, very interesting game also. Queen c7 again, attacks the queen, so I grab it. Okay, I will go back a bit. So the idea is interesting, but I don't want to quote the game at all. So let me go just until I find the opening as finish. And so I will finish it here. Bishop f3, it's already very advanced. So I will cut the moves from here. And now I will double click to access the comments, and I will remove the result because I am more interested on the line. And then I will come back to the game. So in the game we got this Maroczy bind. Carlsen went with knight f6, which is normal. Knight c3. Over here, a6 is the most common. So a6 is most common. Let me see, or Niall is playing this. Carlsen also played this against Shirov, which is always interesting. So the game went bishop e3. Then Carlsen, okay, bishop b6, b6 move to flanker to the bishop row. Again, Carlsen takes on the center. Of course, this is more or less maneuvers from the Can Sicilian. And of course, okay, this sacrifice was a bit strange. Well, Carlsen must knows what it's doing. Well, leaving the king in the center. Interesting position, another interesting position. So a6 is also a very interesting one. So the click with the right mouse and copy to notation. And again, I will cut the game a bit on, okay, over here, okay. This is interesting, okay, going for this one. And now, okay, this one is the finished line, so let's go with this. Double click to access the comments. Now I remove this one and I will save this one. But this is also an interesting game to check. Interesting game to check further. So this will also be probably something I will come back again. But okay, let's go to the line that we got during the game, which was to take directly the knight. Maybe Carlsen over here wanted to simplify. Now bishop c5, it was the idea, bishop d3. Now castle, I was expecting castle. But castle favors white, if you notice over here that castles just favors white. So probably not a good idea because maybe it loses the momentum. Knight g4 has been played before. So as you can see on the games found on the online database, there are more games with this position. So probably more theoretical than what I know. I am just finding out for the first time. So okay, so players that went to Castle, they did lost their games. So Castle has this as 100% lost record for black, of course. White has won. So knight g4, very interesting one. I will mark it as interesting. So the defense was knight d1. Okay, the 4 games gave that. We are already losing theory from here. So now castle, okay, which was also the moves from other players, but okay, now we are almost only with our game. The other two are not that strong to be a reference, unless they bring some interesting moves that sometimes I look at, like going queen g3 over here, which is interesting. But why propose the exchange? Well, it worked for the player that did that. So let's see it. Interesting idea to defend more. I think it's more to defend than to attack, of course. And the other player accepted, and then it took probably the H pound. Yes, with the H pound. So let's mark this down. I don't think this is such an important game, but it's an interesting idea. So let's get it here, and let's just get the name of the game. And let's go back to our game. So bishop e2. Then we get everything we already saw. Okay, pinning the knight. Then we got d6. The bishop goes to the h6 square. We already saw this. f5. So takes. Here, taking with the rook. I want to see this with the engine. But taking with the rook, which was the problem over here. Well, I don't see any problem. Okay, it's white can bring the bishop, but our knight can take it. Maybe Carlsen. Well, I really don't know. Maybe Carlsen was more worried about developing the light square bishop. So when he took with a pawn, he also released the e6 square for the bishop. Okay, maybe it was that idea. Maybe to release the e6 square for the bishop. Okay, of course this is a bit of although it takes some time here, this is kind of a live session, but if I would not be recording, I would for sure spend a bit more time over here, because I think this position it's interesting. Let me enter a diagram over here. So it's interesting to think about if you should take with a rook or with a pawn. Of course, it took with a pawn, so we are going for the weak squares. There are two weak squares over here. There are also b5 at the moment, so the bishop controls d5. Now, this one allows a pawn sacrifice. Well, what happens if I protect with b3? Is this such a bad idea? Well, I don't know why this is not maybe bringing the queen to, but there is the mate threat over here, don't forget. There is a mate threat, because I was thinking on this one, but this one doesn't work. Bringing the bishop also too soon. Is this such a weakness? The knight can move in the other move, and it can't be attacked now. So if I go bishop d4, well, I think just the rook goes to c1. So yes, I think this was playable also. Let's see more ahead. Okay, castle. Okay, it sacrifices the pawn. Now the knight comes to attack the pawn, and the queen moves counter-attacking on the knight. This is a blunder. Let's mark this as a blunder. I have no doubts about it. So now Duda lost a piece, and so the game is practically over. So this was the second phase, where I tried to understand with the online database more about the moves, about the theory of the positions, and then finally I will turn on the engine. I would go a bit better about some situations on on the game, but I will jump that, so not to bother too much about during the video. Of course, over here I can go and load my setup with the game analysis and the online engine. So let's bring the engine up. I'm not interested at the moment with repertoire, so I will close that one. I want to check in this arrow so I can see down here the moves analyzed by previous players, and let's go for the positions again. So let's go with the first moves. This is just theory. Now knight c6, it's an option. Of course, if you go here and we order this by Carlsen, you can see that Carlsen plays a6. Let me go a bit for the side. a6, knight f6, and that's it. I don't see Carlsen, so either plays knight c6 is not even the most common. Normally Carlsen goes over here. Normally Carlsen opts for this one. So as you can see over here, Carlsen goes with a6, which is more or less Ken Taimanov ideas. Also interesting to note down. Okay, knight c6. I'm not worried about the engine at the moment, but a3. Sorry. As you can see, it's one of the top 3 on the engine, so you can see it over here. So the engine also suggests, but not the main one. Nevertheless, we are in the opening phase, so not that important. If you notice also on the online database, it's not one of the top options. The top options are knight c3, also knight b5. So knight c6, let's go with the next move, a3. And now the reply. Okay, over here we still are under theory cover. So what the engine says, it's too soon. The engine can't go that deep to understand everything. Notice also very interesting over here, as you can see on this situation. We have over here, okay, let me change my head to the side. You can see over here that we get this move that was analyzed already in a recent date, so very recent, about Stockfish 17.1, and went to deep 49. So the best move for the engine over here is to go bishop c5, which we saw on that option, okay, but I didn't like. So knight c3, bishop b6, and although the engine keeps liking it, I don't like this, but okay, maybe it's playable. Maybe I should go, maybe I can analyze it deeper. Okay, analyze with S. I am in doubts about what is the best to write with. If you analyze like the British and the Australians and so on, or with a Z with the Americans, I have not made my mind about it. I'm not an English native, so sometimes I fail a lot with trying to understand what is the right way. But okay, let's go on for speeding this a bit up, because you're already understanding the ideas. So queen c7, I think it's playable. It's one of the potential moves. And c4 over here is not the top move from the engine. And there is another move. This is also the stockfish move. So let's play a stockfish. Of course, not only stockfish. If we go to note about the moves, we can see that bishop e3 was the second one, but let's add this as poor performance for white at the moment, which is a very important note. So okay, let's go ahead, c4, and let's see a bit more. Let's now move forward a bit faster. Let's go with, okay, what I have here. Okay, not to me to see this one. So let's go for more critical situations. And over here, knight g4, which was one of the moments of the game for me, because I was not aware of this move. But of course, it is the main one. Castle is also fair, so not big deals with castle. In fact, castle, and the main one is bishop e2, now d5, 1 2 3. Well, d5, it's an interesting one. So d5, we have 1 2 3 4 in one side and 1 2 on the other one. So we are sacrificing a pawn with it, but okay, let's see it. This one is interesting and recommended by Stockfish at the moment. Okay, let's see how the continuation goes. Okay, Stockfish has a small tendency to start by taking with this one, and okay, we get a pawn down. Now rook e8, not even rook d8, rook e8, castle, queen e5, so placing some pressure. Bishop, oh, sorry for this one, Control Z and play the right move. Bishop f3, knight g4 over here. Well, this is, let me note it here, Stockfish. And of course, this is engine line, because I'm not understanding it at all. So let's go with the evaluation from the engine. I wouldn't say this is an equal position. I would say it's a compensation. The pawn is compensated because, of course, over here it needs to take. Of course, it needs to take. And then the bishop takes back. Okay, I will add that one before classifying it. So this forces to take back, and now black gets compensation for the pawn. But it's a pawn down. Of course, a pawn is a pawn. I don't see immediately compensation, but okay, the engine says it's compensated, so I will have to trust. But okay, let's go for the main move. So knight g4 over here. Okay, knight d1, it's the only defense. No, it has another. It even doesn't care about the. Okay, I really don't understand this one. Okay, queen f3, knight takes on f2, and now b4, attacking the bishop. Wow, okay, I see something now. Okay, bishop d4, knight b5, which forks the bishop and the queen. Queen e5, but now the knight takes. No. What is going on over here? Why is not okay? If it takes, the queen takes, then it also attacks the rook, so wins one tempo and defend the knight. So the rook needs to move and would be so many arrows. And so the knight would take that. So taking, which would be an option. Oh, sorry, this is a bad option. So I want first to place bishop f4. So bishop f4 is the main move. Let's promote this one. Right click on the mouse, promote. This one is a blunder, of course, because I take. Now the rook is under attack. Both rooks are under attack, but okay. The queen takes the knight, and okay, we get an advantage for black for sure. So bishop f4 is the move, queen f6, and now probably bishop d6. What happens over here? What is going on? Okay, bishop f6. So now it is a discovery. This is really difficult. And I'm going to note it here as, of course, engine line, because I'm not getting this one on my own. So this was the difference from the game. Then castle, which is the move that the engine also recommends. d5, again d5, sacrificing a pawn. Well, the engine likes d5 a lot. I don't see it. Well, maybe this is good for calculation, but okay, Stockfish again, and again sacrificing a pawn, so let's go with that. And then we take it, and then it takes back. Sorry, and then, okay, castle, and it says black gets compensation. Well, but not for me. So castle, bishop e2, knight e5, attacking the queen, queen g3, d6, bishop h6, and knight g6 was the main option from Stockfish, but it's too soon, of course. f5. f5 was an option. Now that doubt about how to continue out after the pawn takes. And of course, the rook takes, it's a bad move. So let's see why the rook takes, it's a bad move. So this is not, it's a dubious move, not probably a mistake, because then white just castles, a5, knight g6, knight g6. Well, this is starting to give a lot of advantage for white. Nevertheless, too soon at the moment, because the depth of the engine, it's still low. This happens when I am recording at the same time that I am analyzing. So let's say, well, there are many options over here for black, and none is going to satisfy. Well, let me just place here the evaluation. Well, black has 1 pawn up, but for the engine, white is far better, so more than compensated for the pawn, which is interesting. And for sure, this line I would check better, because this was my suggestion. And when I get a position like this one, and I go with such a different evaluation for 2 moves, then I like to see what am I missing over here. And probably what I'm missing is simple. This is not a position that we can compare based on just material, because black has 1 pawn up, but also on the dynamics of the position. And for sure, white is threatening things like going on with the knight. Of course, now the bishop over here, I don't like it that much, but maybe going to the other side. b4 is also threatening, bringing the other rook. So okay, I start to see that white has some dynamic activity over here, and so the initiative, and probably that's very good. But I want to come back here after, because this is a position that I fail on my analysis, so I would calculate it far deeper. I will do it after the recording for sure. So knight c3, attacking that weak spots. Now bishop e6, castle. Okay, this was a bit normal, sacrificing the pawn. It's not so understandable, but the engine likes castle. He also likes bishop f4, but bishop f4, the knight takes. I don't see that much compensation, but okay, I'm not understanding the position. This is a good game, because when we don't understand, that's when the effort we do, the investment in time we do, are going to pay off better. So now it takes the pawn, b4, the bishop goes back, rook ad1 was the move probably, but okay, you went with the knight, which is not, for the engine, not that good. So over here, it prefers rook ad1, of course, activating the rook. So this would give more or less compensation, because we have a pawn down at the moment for white. Very hard to play as white for me. Okay, I understand that these players understand dynamics and activity far better than me. That's for sure. That's why they are on the top level and I'm not. That's why I analyze their games, and they don't pay attention to mind games. Okay, not mind games, my games. So rook ac1, okay, this is the blunder for sure. And of course, Magnus finds the way to punish it and goes with bishop f4. Okay, this is game over over here. Not a chance anymore for Duda. So this was the game. Now I would go and Control S to save it, okay? And it's done. Hope you have enjoyed. This was more or less not such a script video. So the idea is for you to see how I do it in a real context. Although I would take far more time. I would take sometimes I have told you that before on video about how I analyze my own games. Sometimes I can take 4 hours, 5 hours, but this is chess, and if we want to really improve, we really want to understand, This game is perfect for me because I am lost with this sacrifice that Duda brought to the game. The variations that were played are very dynamic, so the activity of the pieces beats material advantage. So I struggle a bit about it because I kind of am a beginner in just counting. Okay, the pound counts one, so I have one more pound, so I am with the advantage. And as you can see, the engine also tells us otherwise. Not understanding the engine sacrifice of d5 was also interesting. So many things that we can take over here that if we dedicate more time, we are going to try to, and probably in the end, we are going to improve as players. And that's the idea about analyzing and studying other players. Okay, hope you have enjoyed. And as always, I catch you up with future videos. Bye bye and keep checking.